When you picture a farm, you probably think of wide open fields, super quiet nights, and just peace, right? But what happens when all that isolation, that quiet, becomes a trap? Well, today we're going to dive into three true stories where that exact peace was just shattered by absolute terror.
So let me just ask you, what are you afraid of when the lights go out? Is it the things you can actually see, or is it the things you can't?
Because, for some people, the biggest fear isn't hiding in some crowded city or a spooky abandoned building. Nope. It's what's lurking in those endless, silent rows of corn, just past the edge of the porch light. Okay, let's get into this. Our first story takes us to a little farm out in Buckingham, Iowa, back in August of 2018. And it kicks off like these things so often do, with something really simple and really unsettling. A knock in the middle of the night. So it starts off pretty normal. A couple, Cheryl and her husband, they've just said goodbye to some friends around 11 o'clock. They're getting ready for bed. And maybe half an hour later, there's a knock. A man's voice says he's lost, needs some help, but something just feels off. The voice sounds wrong, strained, like a man trying way too hard to make his voice sound higher than it is. And this is the moment, right here, where everything just flips. The husband thinks, hey, maybe it's his neighbor George pulling a dumb prank after a few drinks. So he tests him. He says, prove it. What's your wife's name? And the voice that comes back, it's not high-pitched anymore, it's deep, and it says, that's a trick question. The game is over. This is very, very real. Immediately, the husband just yells through the door, I have a shotgun waiting for you if you don't leave here now. And while he's doing that, Cheryl is already on the phone with 911. But they both know, out on a farm like this, help is a long, long way away. And then things just escalate, fast. They hear footsteps on the deck, and they realize it's not one person out there. It's multiple people. Then a hand starts trying to jimmy a window open. Cheryl is screaming into the phone. And just as her husband runs to actually grab a shotgun, there's more banging at the door. But this time, it's the real George, their neighbor, showing up with his own gun after getting a frantic call. George didn't see anybody when he pulled into the driveway. Whoever they were, they just vanished back into the night. But the couple is left with this absolutely terrifying thought. The only thing that stood between them and a group of violent intruders was one single wooden door. But sometimes the threat isn't trying to get in. It's already out there, waiting. So for our second story, we're also in the summer of 2018. This time, we're on a farm where a young guy is house-sitting for his grandparents. All alone. He's about to find out that some things are better left alone in a story that he calls The Ritual in the Corn. So the night starts with just a weird noise from the cornfield. Okay, easy to just brush that off. But then all the cows in the barn just start mooing at the same time, which is a sure sign something's wrong. And that is followed by a single, horrible, high-pitched scream from a cow. He goes to check the barn, and his blood runs cold. One of the cows is just gone, missing from its stall. He hears what sounds like people talking out in the corn, and he knows he can't just sit there. He grabs his grandpa's hunting rifle and, hoping to scare off whoever or whatever is out there, he fires 2 warning shots straight up into the air. And you know what? For a second, it actually seems to work. Everything goes dead silent. The cows stop mooing. The voices stop. There's just nothing. And then he hears footsteps coming through the corn. So he moves into the cornfield himself, rifle at the ready, and he comes face to face with the truth. It's not one person. It's not a couple of kids messing around. He is surrounded by at least 7 people, all in dark clothes, all wearing these creepy masks. He is completely, totally outnumbered. But they don't attack him. They just stand there. And then they start to chant in some language he doesn't recognize. And this dawning horror washes over him as he realizes this isn't a robbery. This is some kind of ritual. And he just walked right into the middle of it. He sees his chance and he just bolts, runs for his life, firing shots behind him as he goes. And on his way back to the farmhouse, he finds it, the proof of what they were doing. The head of the missing cow, placed neatly right in the center of a circle of burning candles. Okay, for our final story, we're heading to a family farm in the middle of Arkansas, just this past July. A 25-year-old guy named Howard is looking after his two younger sisters when he runs into a whole different kind of terror, a relentless psychological game he calls the Whistler. It starts with the farm dogs just going nuts, barking at the cornfield. Howard goes to check it out, and he hears a really clear human whistle coming from inside the rows of corn. He fires a warning shot. The dogs start up again, and this time a man is just standing out in the open, staring. And get this, he only runs after Howard has seen him. It's like a twisted game. So Howard calls his dad, who's away on a trip. And his dad's advice just puts the weight of the entire world on his shoulders. He says, "He told me I had to be the man of the house and protect my sisters." So here he is, 25 years old, terrified, and now he's the only one responsible for keeping his family safe. A little later that night, after everything's calmed down, he's in his room, windows open, and he hears it. That same whistle, only this time, it's closer. He looks out his window and he sees the man just walking across the grass. But then, the intruder does something so incredibly chilling. He stops. He turns. And he looks directly up at Howard's window. And he just keeps whistling. It's a direct challenge, a psychological attack. This isn't about stealing something, it's about terrorizing them. Howard fires a shot into the grass, right next to the man, and that finally sends him running off for good.
So, what is it about these stories that just gets under our skin so much? Let's break down the anatomy of this kind of fear and really dig into why these specific situations are just so uniquely terrifying.
When we lay these stories out side by side, you see they're all different versions of the same core terror. With the knock, the threat is a deceptive home invader. In the ritual, it's this organized group with who knows what motives. And in the Whistler, it's one person who's a persistent psychological tormentor. But you see the common threat, right? The isolated setting and the violation of a place that's supposed to be safe. All of these stories use 4 key ingredients of horror to their advantage. First, you've got extreme isolation. This deep, primal fear that when danger shows up, you are totally alone and no one is coming to help. Second, the landscape itself becomes the bad guy. That quiet cornfield isn't just a background. It's a living, breathing maze that hides whatever's coming for you. Third, the violation of sanctuary. This hits us right where we live, turning the one place on Earth you're supposed to feel safe into the center of the nightmare. And finally, the fear of the unknown. Who were those people? What did they want? Not having answers is almost always more terrifying than any monster you could possibly dream up. And all this really leaves us with one final lingering question. The next time you find yourself out in the quiet, peaceful countryside, just listening to the crickets and the wind, are you really sure you're alone?